how do you get that collaboration between cost and scheduling? Because when it goes right, happy days. When it goes wrong, you have all these weird things where the cost team has their own spreadsheet, the schedule team, is trying to create a zillion different activities.
It's very difficult, 100%. It is very hard to get this information.
Welcome, everyone, to the Beyond Deadlines podcast, where we tackle challenges that planning and scheduling leaders come across on a day-to-day basis. My name is Micah Piippo, and I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
Hi, my name is Owen Manning, and I'm the VP of Project Delivery for XYZ Realty.
Today, Owen is on the hot seat, and we are talking earned value management. Owen, you've took a new job, and you are the director of scheduling for a large general contractor who wants to implement earned value management. How do you go about doing it?
First of all, big promotion, obviously. Nice step up for where I am at the moment.
You better start spending it before they figure you out, buddy.
Yeah, no, definitely. The big thing is, understanding what we're trying to achieve out of it. It's like anything. You're implementing a new process. It's like the why you're doing it, and then eventually the how you're doing it, and explaining that to all the teams involved. So generally what I do when I'm implementing anything across a team or across multiple different teams is to really get in and explain, this is what we want to do, and this is why we want to do it, and these are the steps we're going to take. So
what would you think that would look like for earned value? And dive just a little bit into the tactics, because, is it, I guess, what typically would be the median, you're using? Is it presentation? Is it meetings? And then what's the high level message behind it?
What I'd ultimately try to do is, it's going to be some sort of presentation. Ideally, do a bit of a roadshow to speak to as many people in person as possible, because it can answer questions and show better engagement. I've sent decks around to people in PowerPoint and or review that and give me questions after, and you never hear anything back, so you can't beat actually going there and doing it yourself.
I always thought there was one person that said something back, and then it's like always the hardest question on like slide 6, and you're like, oh, really?
Yeah, a typo normally, right? Because I can't spell to save my life. But no, I suppose everyone's going to want to know, what do they get out of it? How is this going to improve what they're doing? Because all they're going to think is, this is another process that I need to follow that's going to take me longer to implement. But the idea is what they're going to get out of it. Okay, so from my background is quantity surveying, commercial management on projects, segued into project controls and planning, etc. I would speak to the commercial manager and I'd say, earned value analysis, essentially your plan versus actual, tracking what you were meant to do versus what you did, be that planning, risk, cost, etc. So from a cost point of view, okay, you've achieved 50% of your progress, but you've spent 60% of your budget, so this is to try to tell you as soon as possible that you potentially have a cost overrun that could happen. And we need to implement this process across the company to kind of identify these things as early as possible to prevent delays or commercial overruns at the end of projects. So try to make it relevant to each of them as we go.
Yeah. So you've gotten your pitch deck together. You've done your world tour. I'm guessing it has your plan in it, some of the things you're going to execute, and probably a pilot project where this is going to start out with. Walk me through, what are those next steps to getting EVM rolled out?
Yeah, so the next step, it's part of the processes you have on each site. You need to kind of standardize it, so you want it to be interchangeable project to project, because if you're in a business unit within your company or else as the wider group, you're going to have people moving from project to project, so you want it to be the same everywhere you go. So you basically have to give them the how to do it. For your EVA, from a labor hours point of view, you need to be able to track the progress happening on site real time, ideally live. So you can have accurate live data when you draw your line in the sand and say, this is what we spent today versus what we've earned.
How live, that's an interesting point. I'm going to double click on it, but how live does data really need to be? I mean, my thought process is weekly, you're probably fine. You mentioned daily. I mean, am I just being pedantic here? Does it really matter? What are your thoughts?
Look, we obviously want it when you want it. So people say, "Oh, when do you want the data?" It's whenever I'm actually looking for it. So I might never reach out to one of the people in my team, and then once every 6 weeks, it could be a random Wednesday. How are we getting on this project? I want them to be able to give me the information live to that date. I don't want to hear the next report cycles in 2 weeks' time. I'll tell you then, or so on and so forth. Um, when I was planning on projects, weekly is obviously as good as you're going to get because the larger the project, you're not getting detailed progress
Right.
anything better. Even a week is pushing it. Um, but you need to consider what could you actually do with live daily progress. If you're getting to the supervisor on site and they have a team working in an area and you're at the whiteboard or the huddle the next morning and you want to make the plan for the day or kind of saying, look, this is where we need to be by Friday. If you're working off live progress that is literally up to the day before, you know that, those 4 rooms are actually finished. I can see it live here, it's finished. Yes, we're on target. We can finish the work by Friday. Or else if it's not finished and you're a bit behind, you either need an additional members of the gang in the group and to do the work, or else you're not going to hit the Friday deadline. So that's where
Right.
the daily live can help opposed to weekly.
Yeah, it sounds to me that that is more of a infield solution as
Mm.
opposed to an office solution. The
Yeah.
office can wait probably end of week, end of month cycles, and the field needs that daily updated. This is what room's ready. This is where we can go work.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. So, to me, then, kind of diving more into this, maybe describe without using the cheat code of saying we'd use XYZ. What would a more traditional setup here look like? And kind of walk me through I guess I'm looking at like this as like a flows of information that are coming in, right?
Yeah.
You have labor hours, quantities, materials potentially, and these are all flowing in. Do you ever go as wild as going to like advanced work packaging and using construction packages and boiling those down to cost account? I mean, walk me through just some of this kind of framework that's set up to get this EVM beast moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it stems back to when you price the project. It's basically any price is going to be the amount of hours needed to achieve the project, times the rate per hour you have to do the work for your labor, the cost of material, add them together, put your markup on it, and that's your price for your project. So you can take the hours out of that price and assign it against your constructed activities on the site. So keep it high level. You have 1,000 hours to complete your fire alarm package. You would then assign that to the activities in the WBS in your schedule. And first fix fire alarm in zone A, you've 30 hours and so on and so forth. So that's how you
How do you
break it
get
out.
that collaboration? So it's brilliant the way you're laying this out. How do you get that collaboration between cost and scheduling? Because when it goes right, happy days. When it goes wrong, you have all these weird things where the cost team has their own spreadsheet, the schedule team, is trying to create a zillion different activities. How do you get that, nice mix?
Uh, it's very difficult, 100%. I'm picturing the best case solution or best case scenario. It is very hard to get this information. What generally happens is that you will create buckets, as you mentioned. You will stick to the fire alarm for a certain area. You won't be able to break it down into the different, the conduit on the wall, the cable pulled, the terminations, because earned is probably the easier part to get from it. There are solutions out there that can track the earned, okay, but the spent hours, you're going to ask the supervisor in an area to literally monitor that person's team of 10 people to say how long they spent terminating the cable, each cable, how long they spent putting in that conduit. So it is very difficult to track the spent in particular. So you have to kind of cut your cloth to suit. And what you'll do is you look at it from a package per area. So it'll be fire alarm per zone A or security per zone B, etc.
That's brilliant. I love the cut the cloth to suit. How would you, if this is for a scheduling program, then where are you looking to standardize across projects? And I'll make it easy for you. Make it a similar industry. So you're not building wildly different things, but where are you looking to standardize across those projects?
So I suppose what I did do, I used to work for a specialist contractor and, manage a team of planners, 9 to 12, 9 to 15. And what I would do is create a template schedule of the standards I expect to see across the project, all fully coded up, etc. So this is what I do. I create a project with every single package in it and first, second fix or third fix, depending on what people want. And that means that we're going to have all the detail needed across all the projects. And if a project doesn't have something like Buzzbar, doesn't have security, you just delete that out of your schedule. But basically, you have standardization across all the projects coded up to suit. The problem is getting the estimation for the project to match the schedule. That is difficult because, look, everyone's busy. Estimators in the office are busy. They're putting tenders out to price. They might price the ventilation package or the partitions package, and they might get an answer back with like one line. We'll do the project for 20 million, and no other details. So it is very difficult to get that level of detail you want, but that shouldn't prevent you from planning for the best case scenario and making a best guess estimate across your different activities then.
Yeah, I guess you could always work back with the estimating team and have them come in and help you break out, that fire alarm package. And it would be, maybe you're reporting back to the customer at a fire alarm level, but for your internal tracking, you're looking at the different, panels and switches and this and that and the other thing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, so let's say you've sold the team over. Sounds like you got a good implementation plan. Starting to transition over to tracking, reporting, and the like. How do you get that set up? And I'll put it in two different buckets. The first bucket, in-field reporting and boots on the ground. And then the office reporting and up to the executive level. How are you kind of amalgamating that data, putting it together, and getting people information they need to make the decisions that are most pertinent to them?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, assuming we don't have any advanced technology, how we used to do it was each person on site, you've their work task for the day, right? So, you're working on, I don't know, sprinkler pipe and fire protection, and you at the end of the day have to put in what you've done that day. You'll send that on to your foreman for the day. He compiles all the different people under his team, puts it together and brings it up the line to say, look, this is my work pack and these are what my people did that day. And then you quantify that work. So that's your earned hours. And like that's one group, and assume there's multiple groups, right? So all that's compiled into the office level. The office level then takes that information and puts it into their system that's already set up, assume an Excel sheet, and they fill in all the information and it gives you your earned progress against each of those tasks, right? So that's taking micro information, bringing it up into a bit more high level, and then you go up the line. So I can say that, okay, this package achieved this amount percent this week against the plan, right? So that's your earned section. Your spend section then is something similar. The foreman would have to go around and see how long each person spent on it. I remember when I started off quantity surveying 15, 16 years ago, one of my first tasks when nobody wants to do it is track the allocation sheets. So the supervisors had the sheets for allocations, their people's name on it, what package they worked on, doing whatever. Back then it was in sheets of paper. They all got landed on my desk at the end of the day, and I had to try and bring a data entry basically into the Excel and give you the total hours spent against each package on a daily basis. So at the end of the week, you'd compile all that and you'd report upstream at a package level to say, you achieved 10% on the fire alarm and you spent 10% of the hours. All's okay. Or else if you've overspent, depends on how much you overspent. It's giving a red flag that there's an issue with the fire alarm. And you'd obviously report that at a high level, but the first question they're going to ask, where is the problem? So you can then go down into your macro level and say that, look, or your micro level to say that, it's zone A or zone B or zone C, and then they'll go and investigate what the issue is there, and it could be a lack of material, lack of access, could be a design change, etc. So that's how you'd implement it on site, but there's a lot of, data entry, a lot of people involved in it. It's assuming information is correct as well. It's nothing is live, snappy, and consistent, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like 6 questions and you only have one mouth. So let's see if we can get through these.
Go on.
But the first one, I want to go on a little bit of a rabbit trail. You mentioned doing something that no one else really wanted to do. How did that work out for you in your career? It was like you're tracking allowances, or did that set you up in a favorable position? Was it kind of you did it and nothing really happened, or?
Uh, yeah, look, it's a funny one. It didn't. I suppose where I am, I've gone through. So in my 15 years experience before joining XYZ, I was a construction guy, literally on site. The only time I wasn't on site, I spent about a year in the head office for one of the companies I was with, because the project I was meant to go on got delayed. So I was involved in a lot of pre-construction, etc. So the start date kept getting pushed out, and I was in the office, and that was the only time I wasn't actually on a site trailer for 15 years. So I did get a lot of hands-on experience and saw where stuff goes wrong. So like where I'm talking to you about implementing this earned value, like you'll hear in a text, or you read in a textbook, or you'll hear, oh, this is how we'll do it, and there'll be no problem. But you don't know the people
Yeah.
you're dealing with on site or how it's going to be accepted or received. So there's a lot of these grand ideas without actually factoring the human involved, you know. So it kind of helped me that way because I got to see how the sausage was made, basically. But what I would say, and maybe for other people out there, I didn't get onto site enough in the first year because I was just dealt with paperwork. Like I was in the porta cabin on site, like 200 meters from the actual building, but I didn't have enough time, and I wasn't really encouraged, and I just did what I was told because I was a new employee. I wasn't encouraged to go down to site enough, so I kind of missed out the first year or two with kind of actually seeing the work happen in its position. Now I
Yeah.
was interacting with all the people doing it, but in the site trailer. But so that's something maybe I would say that held me back slightly. But also I do have the kind of the early beginnings and the humble beginnings of doing the craft work that nobody wants to do. That look, everyone has to do it. You can't go in and expect to be running the show after a couple of years, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, appreciate that. I always like diving into those a little bit because, there's a lot of listeners out there that are in different places of your career. And I've always found interesting the tasks that no one else wants to do are usually a gold mine for people just looking for a little bit of either career advancement or to learn something new, or whatever it may have you, that you kind of find those tasks. And overall, EVM could be one of those tasks. I mean, it's been around forever. There's a lot of haters for it. And by diving in and delivering something like that, one, it's a green space because no one else wants to do it.
Yeah.
So you get to go in and just own it and do it. And then two, it's one of those ones where people are like, oh, wow, you're actually doing that? That's cool because no one else will actually do it. So I always found those interesting. Um, Getting off the rabbit trail, getting back on the main path. You've set up reporting now for EVM and it's rolling. How do you maintain that cog in that system and make sure that EVM stays going on the new projects, that it stays fluid on the old projects, on the ongoing projects? How do you keep the ball rolling?
I think the big thing is keeping people interested in it, and EVM, how interesting is that? But it's showing the value,
We're
constantly
shooting
kind
a
of.
whole podcast for it, so hopefully it is.
But like the value and it's massive. That's the whole point. Keep showing the person the value. Look, we're doing all this. I know
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, but this is the value you're getting out of it. Hopefully we at this stage, because we've implemented across a few projects, that we can show, look at the benefit that project A has received from doing this, as they identified a potential cost overrun pretty early. And that was rectified, realized that there was an access issue and, they fixed it, etc. The project got back on track. It got delivered on time and per budget. Everyone's a winner. So it's probably trying to make sure that people stay on the right path and celebrate with the wins when they come. A big thing I see when new stuff's been implemented, it's people not accepting the flaws of it as well. So they try to hide the flaws and oversell the achievements of it. But if you're on a project and it's not working for various reasons, you have to be a bit flexible to maybe alter the set structure you have in place to kind of maybe accommodate a few sites, which kind of shows that you're listening, and it kind of shows that you're willing to adapt as the needs of the project go. You can't be rigid in what you're doing things and how you're doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. All right, let's hop in our time machine and blast back to present day. So you walked us through spreadsheets and kind of the manual processing of how you traditionally set up EVM. I have a sneaky suspicion XYZ maybe has a little different take on the matter these days. Why don't you just chat a little bit about what it is and how it would dramatically improve what we previously talked about?
Yeah, so look, I suppose with XYZ, we're an augmented reality platform that allows you to build right first time, track progress live using augmented reality. So it's basically a headset that you can view the model in 3D out in sight to millimeter accuracy. So how that helps EVM is the live progress tracking. So like I mentioned, you like every single person on a project can benefit from having live progress. As I mentioned, from a commercial point of view, you're doing your monthly evaluations or your weekly evaluations. Okay, you have to go and track the progress. So you get an update from one of your subcontractors that says they're 60% complete. But you have your system that's track live progress in the field and say, ah, they're only 50% complete. And you have your bit of discussion, but it'll
I
speed up.
feel like it's a little bit different percentage usually. I don't feel like I feel like most people listening to it be like 10%. That sounds actually great.
Yeah. I know, look, there could be materials on site, there could be vested materials, there could be, various stuff.
Uh,
Um,
Someone used to work for a GC.
but, there might be various reasons, but, so the QS can benefit from that and it can speed up their
Yeah.
processes, right? The planner can speed up from because I know when I'm creating schedules or used to create schedules is I love the detail, but it's so long to update then, if you have a 20,000 line schedule, like, just the actual update and start, percent, finish date, remaining duration, all that. With our system, it integrates into with the schedule. So you have someone live in the field updating that. So it just imports directly into P6 and you have your progress update. So that speeds it up. Um, so it's having your live progress is so beneficial. Speaking about the foreman on site, okay, my team of carpenters yesterday got all the door frames in. Okay, happy days, move on. Um, so that's where we can help with the progress tracking. It can get you that earned value that we mentioned, right? So the actual earned hours, right? So you have hours assigned to the activities and it auto calculates the earned hours. So give you a percent complete. Where it also comes with the spent hours, right? So you know yourself, it's a lot of time the install goes in and you're doing fine progress, and then suddenly you get spent hours later on the project against tasks that are already finished. It's because they're going back into the area and fixing issues that were incorrect at the
Yeah,
time. So it's
quality.
like
Yeah.
quality, like so it's a team of snaggers basically going back and saying, oh, that was in the wrong position and fix it. Oh, there's a clash there and fix it, etc. So you might think early on the project that you're fine from an earned value point. You've spent 1,000 hours, you've burnt 1,000 hours, happy days. But then you have all these extra hours coming in late in project. And it's all rework, it's fixing rework. So basically with our system as well, we can see live in the project that something's installed where it's meant to be, it's not causing a clash, etc. We can sign it off installed. Or else if it is installed in the incorrect position, we can say, okay, that's an issue, it needs to be fixed now before it causes a clash in the future and you have to get teams back in to fix it. So it's helping with um, tracking the progress, as you can imagine, but also preventing that hours down the line to come in and all that rework. So these, unexpected hours at the end that causes delays to the project. It's obviously much more expensive to fix things the later the project goes. So that's kind of how
Yep.
we can help with the earned value side of things.
Does a program, this is when it's interested to me. I have a feeling that if a program has set up their processes to perform EVM, they've built their schedule in a certain way or have a coding structure in a certain way that ties back to their cost systems. Does that actually make it easier to set up a system like XYZ to it? Because it's probably already broke out in a way that is more geared towards tying back to the physical scope.
Yeah, or like we much prefer when somebody already has the hours and costs set up in their schedule because we just integrate, we take their information and just link it all up so we're singing off the same hymn sheet basically. Where we find that there isn't a labor loaded or cost loaded schedule, so we've already labor loaded the models basically. So we've taken industry standard hours and we put it into the model and import it in. So in the absence of having the contractor or the team's hours, we can use industry standard, but it's always much better if they have that process set up in the first place.
Oh, very interesting. Well, Owen, we like to keep these short. Any final thoughts or anything else? I will put links to XYZ into the show notes so you can find it there, and links to Owen's LinkedIn page so you can message him about all your detailed questions about EVM. Feel free to not send them towards me. But any other final thoughts, any other questions you want to, or anything you
No,
want to tell the crowd?
No, look, I said, look, sticking with the topic, earn value. It's a big task. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely the value's there. All you need is one project to benefit from it, and it can pay for the implementation across the rest of the projects. You know, there's a load of insights you can get from it, and it benefits everyone throughout the team. So it's definitely worth thinking about in your process.
Yeah. And I feel like it's kind of catching a second wave now that you have new technologies come out
Hmm.
on the visual capture side, that it's the main sticking point or pain point was it's so hard to track. I feel like we're catching a little bit of a second wave here on EVM, and it's coming back around in more places. I'll ask a bonus question. Are you seeing that where you're seeing more companies adopt it now or bring it back?
Definitely, what I'm seeing in general is companies are getting into the detail more on projects and smaller projects as well. So obviously, the larger projects you have to do it. Like you know, no matter what it costs, you need to get the detail. But it's been like in my old company, we would have done work in the commercial side, and there isn't a lot of margin on an office fit out, etc. But it's starting to be used in office fit out because of the new technology that's out there that can speed this process up. So they've seen the value in it, but they couldn't justify the cost for smaller projects. But it's starting to creep into these smaller jobs too, which is great.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, folks, thank you for listening this week. We will catch you next week. Before you take off for the week, if you could do me one favor, please share this podcast with someone that you know could benefit from it. We're trying to grow our community. We're trying to bring on bigger and better guests and provide you more value, more templates, more free things to help you out in your career. So please share it with somebody you know and help us grow. We'll see you next week.